when I was at Fremantle, I had a midfield coach, Brett Kirk, who taught me a lot about meditation and mental imagery and how much that can influence your performance and even just your day-to-day life. So every morning I'll meditate for 5-10 minutes. Just sets my day up. I love it. It's not for everyone, I know that, but for me it works.
Welcome to the M26 Fit podcast, where we explore the connection between having a strong mind and a strong body. Okay, today's special guest, we have AFL superstar, co-captain of the Brisbane Lions, Lachie Neale. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, Magnus. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Now, mate, I've got the longest list of any guest, and you must have a pretty big trophy cabinet, mate. So I just wanted to list a few of these things out. So you're a Brownlow Medalist in 2020, 2023. You've got the Lee Matthews Trophy in 2020. AFL-CA Champion Player of the Year Award in 2020. You're on the All-Australian team 2019, 2020, 2022. Merit Murray Medal in 2019, 2020, 2022. The Duig Medal 2016, 2018. Jeff Christensen Medal 2016, 2018. Glenn Dining Allen Medal in 2014, 2015, 2018. You're in the under-22 Australian team 2015, the Marcus Ashcroft Medal 2020, 2023, and you played in 2 AFL Grand Finals 2013, 2023. I'll take a breath. How's that?
Well, I've lost both those Grand Finals, so not a great record. You can leave that one off. But, it's not something I think about too much. I'm sure I'll look back at the end of my career and be proud of those things. Still got work to do.
Yeah, still got a long way to go in your career. You're not, certainly not at the tail end of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like in sport, especially AFL, you feel like once you turn 30, people start saying, how long's he got left? A couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, you'd never really know. But as long as my mind and body feel right, I'll keep going. But so I'm not sure how long I do have left. It could be 2, 3 years, or it could be 5 or 6. You just never know. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and right now, mate, the almighty Lions, I think you're 6 in a row, won 8 out of your last 10. How are the boys, what's the feeling like amongst the team at the moment? And you guys confident of making the finals now? Top 4, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're 4th. As of today, that could change over this weekend. The comp's so tight at the moment, it's changing so often. But we're feeling good as a group. Like you said, we've found a nice groove. We've won some games, and because the comp is so even, every win you just sort of tick it off and move on to the next. So we've got a tough one this weekend against the Swans. So they're top of the ladder by a couple of games, and it's a massive game. It's come at the right time for us, a good test against the best team in it at the moment. So yeah, we feel good. Start of the year, I think we were 2-5, 2 wins, 5 losses after the first 7 rounds, and then we've got going from there. But an important thing that Fags sort of mentioned all through that period is our game was still in pretty good order. All our KPIs, so our key indicators for performance were strong. We were just missing a lot of shots at goal. We weren't connecting that well inside 50, so there was a couple of really obvious things that we had to do to tidy up our game, and we knew that the results would start to turn. So credit to Fags for keeping us motivated and confident in what works for us, and we've managed to turn it around like he said it would. So it's been great coaching by him and the coaching staff as well to identify what we have to fix up, and we've been able to do it and deliver some results.
Yeah. So you're co-captain now. How do you find that? How do you find the extra responsibility, and how would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, I've loved it. It's been a really steep but good learning curve for me. I've always admired leadership and strive to get better in that space and put a lot of work into it since I first came into the system 13 years ago now. So to be captain of an AFL club has been really humbling, and I've loved the experience. It's taught me a lot of great lessons. I think my biggest weapon as a leader is leading by example.
Yep.
I'm co-captain with Harris Andrews, who he also leads by example, but one of his key strengths is probably his ability to connect and motivate the group with words and stuff as well. And he's a real teacher through at training. You'll notice him pull in the group and explain situations to the group. I probably tend to lead by example with professionalism and what I do on the field through my actions.
Yeah, and your work rate.
Yeah, and even things like recovery and just doing little things around the club that hopefully the young boys pick up on and try and follow my lead. So I think we complement each other really well. I still think I speak well, but Harris is probably across that side of it more than what I am, and it really complements each other really well. And we probably reach different groups of the playing group and cover the whole 40, what is that, probably 47 of us or something now on the list. We feel like both of us are able to cover the group well in our styles, and I've had to put a lot of work into it. Early on, you're obviously a young guy coming into the system, you're not as confident as what you are now in speaking up and challenging people, challenging coaches, and sort of standing up for the playing group. Sometimes it can be difficult conversations to have, but I feel like I've grown in that space enormously.
Mate, that's fantastic. I'd like to circle back now, mate, right to the very beginning. How was life growing up for you? I think you were born down in the bottom end of South Australia, near the Victorian border, a little country town. How was your childhood? What were you like as a boy growing up?
Yeah, it was. I had a great childhood growing up. I lived predominantly with my mum and my stepdad in Kaibi, which is on the border. So they're still on the farm there. It's Kaibi Bolite. It's probably about 3.5 hours out of Adelaide. I think some of our paddocks are in Victoria, so we are literally right on the border. If you take your phone down there, sometimes it switches from SA time to Vic time, so you've got to be careful that you got the right time zone, otherwise you're late to things and stuff like that. But I had a great upbringing. I played a lot of sport growing up, obviously played footy from an early age. My dad lived just 15 minutes away as well, so got to see a lot of him as well. But I had a great childhood, loved growing up in the country, and then when I was 14, moved to Adelaide for school, for boarding school. Year 10, that was for me, which I was excited about, was ready to sort of move to the big smoke and get out of my comfort zone. But yeah, my childhood was unbelievable. I grew up riding motorbikes, going fishing and hunting and whatnot, and yeah, couldn't have asked for a better childhood. And mum and my stepdad Brett did an amazing job, and my dad Robbie as well. He taught me a lot of valuable lessons, as they all did. So yeah, couldn't be thankful enough of my childhood. It was unbelievable. Been very blessed and lucky.
Yeah, mate, how good's that? I remember I did a little bit of that, getting out. A mate of mine, his parents had a farm, getting out there and riding a motorbike, and I think, yeah, being brought up in a farm is every kid's dream.
Yeah, no, it's unreal, and my brother and sisters are all been brought up in the country, and they're great people as well, so that's the main thing, and yeah, my parents were very good at raising me.
Yeah. So you played a variety of sports at school. Do you remember a particular time, and obviously you went to boarding school at 14, when you made that decision to, right, I'm just going to have a 100% focus on the AFL? Was there a pivoting little moment there that helped make that decision, or?
Yeah, it was probably going to boarding school. So we, as you know, being from the country, you get to try every sport basically. So I played cricket, footy, basketball, had a go at tennis, soccer, athletics. There's just time to be able to do all of that stuff, whereas in the city you might not. Your parents are probably a bit busier and whatnot, and mum was unbelievable, just drove me into town to play all these sports, so I tried everything. I reckon I even played a tournament for hockey. I was no good at it. Mum played a bit of hockey, but I was no good, so I gave that one up pretty quick. But it was probably boarding school. So when I moved to Adelaide, going to the boarding house, you have to pick a winter sport and a summer sport, and I loved basketball, but I'm pretty small, so probably realised pretty quickly that wasn't going to be the one for me. But you have to pick. I would have loved to have played both in the winter at school in Adelaide, but you had to pick one, so I chose footy. It was the obvious answer. I was probably a lot better at it than I was basketball as well, but also loved the game more than any other sport, so it was a pretty easy decision. And then in the summer played cricket, and I was okay, but wasn't the best cricketer going around. So played footy for the school, and cricket for the school, and then got picked for a couple of representative sides when I was in Adelaide, and played for Glenelg under 16s, which is in the SANFL competition, and then just progressed through the ranks there. But basically when I was 14, I had to choose between basketball and footy. I still love my basketball, follow it pretty closely, and love that sport as well.
Yeah. What about, I know how important it is as a young bloke to have that support around you. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. You can be the best athlete, but if you don't have that support directly around you, you've got mum and dad that's taking you to those training sessions and, maybe raising money for you for doing some extra competitions. Was that obviously your biggest supporter that around you when you were growing up to help you along your career?
Yeah, definitely. And even mum would have had to fork out a fair bit of coin for me to do all these sorts of things. And I know when I was at boarding school, we had a trip to England for cricket, so we did like a 2-week tour of some other schools over there. And at the time, when you're young, you don't really think about it. You just go, righto, mum and dad, this is what I'm doing. You don't think of the consequences and the cost involved. So both of them would have tipped in a lot of money for me to do everything that I wanted to do in my sporting journey. And even mum coming up to Adelaide and watching on weekends the cost of fuel and things like that. You don't even think about it when you're a kid, but now being an adult, being over 30, you sort of think far out. They both invested a lot of time and money into me. So obviously my parents were a massive influence. My junior coaches, still remember my first under 14 coaches at Kaiby, Jamie Kelly and Brian Edwards, who sadly passed away earlier this year, I think it was. So both of them were massive influences on my footy journey early on. And then as I started to play a little bit more senior footy, my couple of years before the draft, I met a man called Tim Lawrence, who is my manager now. But at the time, he was unbelievable in guiding me through the draft process and helping me be the best player I could be. He was my coach in under 18s as well, which was a massive positive for me, and he definitely helped me. I wouldn't be where I am today without him. He's been enormous for me, especially in those early days to help me get drafted, teach me what the commitment and dedication that you had to have to make it. And I can't thank him enough as well for all the support he's given me, and he's done that for a lot of people as well along the way. He's a very selfless man, and he's been massive on my career.
Yeah. So you ended up at Fremantle, and you've got your coach over there, Ross Lynn. Is it true that he told you needed to lose some weight and increase your work rate?
Yeah, Ross Lyon. Yeah, he's coaching St Kilda. He coached St Kilda, came to Freo. His first year at Freo was my first year.
Yep.
And then he was there for probably, what would he have been there for? Maybe 8 or 9 years, and now he's back coaching St Kilda where he started. But he was a great coach. He, it is true. My first year, I played a little bit of senior footy, so I went pretty late in the draft at pick 58. So people probably didn't expect too much from me being a later pick.
Yep.
But I was lucky enough to play 10 games out of about 22 in my first year, and then at the end of the year, you go away, have your off-season break. I probably carried on a little bit too much with my mates back home and drank too much, didn't do as much fitness and gym work as what I should have. Probably just thought, next year I'll play a lot of footy again, and I came back. I wasn't overweight or unfit, but Ross was really good at identifying that I was probably someone he could make better and go pretty hard at, and I could take it and take the feedback on board. And I think at the time I was a little bit upset because the other boys around me, I sort of felt like my skin folds and stuff was still lower than theirs, but he was going at me, and I was sort of like, why is he doing this? And spoke to Tim, my manager, and he said, he's doing it because he rates you, mate, and he thinks that you can get a lot more out of yourself than what you're doing at the moment. And it was a bit of a wake-up call for me, and I think Ross might have said, stop comparing yourself to the people around you and compare yourself to you, and if you want to be a great player in the competition, this is the road forward. So, it was a really big wake-up call for me, and that was probably a turning point in my career. He basically said to me, if you keep doing this in the off-season and come back like this again, you'll play maybe 30 or 40 games, and then I'll piss you off back to Glenelg, and you'll be a fat little forward pocket. So,
Yep.
it was great feedback for me. I didn't love it at the time, being 19. It's sort of like, far out, this bloke hates me, but he was doing it because he saw the potential in me. And once I came around to that, it was a turning point in my professionalism and the way I attack things. So, can't thank Ross enough for the guidance. And he was hard on me, but it turned out to be the best thing for me. So at the time you can't really see it, but now looking back, he was unbelievable for me.
So he's had a big influence on your career, hasn't he? Just in those younger days.
Definitely. And I think that whole team that we had, we were a pretty professional unit. I had a lot of great leaders around me: Matthew Pavlich, David Mundy, Aaron Sandlands, Nat Fife, Michael Barlow, list goes on, Ryan Crowley. So I had a lot of players that
big names
really led the way in that department. And when you're young as well, and you play a little bit of footy, you can get a big head really quickly. So having those people and Ross around me and my family to bring me back down to earth was important. I think if they didn't do that, I could have lost my way really quickly.
All right, mate. Now, this is my favourite part, just chatting about mental health, mental resilience. I think that in sport, like, I've heard this so many times, just how much of a mental game that it is, and to be at that elite level. But can we just have a chat about some of the challenges and the struggles that you guys face as professional sports people that may differ a little bit from the average Joe? Yeah,
for sure. I think one of the biggest ones in the last 10 years is social media. That's probably the biggest challenge. Every kid nowadays has got it coming through the system, the Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever sort of platform you're on. They're all on all of those. So dealing with people attacking you basically on there is probably the thing that you wouldn't get if you didn't play football. So social media, even media as well, dealing with scrutiny in the media if you're not playing well, or if you make a mistake, it sort of comes back to you through the media.
Yeah.
Probably even dealing with friends and people that you've met along the way that want to be involved in what you're doing, and so you're trying to balance your time. You don't want to burn yourself out by giving too much energy to one part of your life and then taking away from your performance and things like that. So dealing with all of those pressures can be quite hard, especially in your first sort of 3-4 years while you're trying to figure it out. You're still growing up as a person as well, and figuring out your own personality and what works for you as an athlete. And but social media is probably the biggest one.
Yeah. And I know obviously the club's got a sports psychologist on board.
Yeah. Yep.
So does he have an influence in that? Because I sort of see it as two parts, that you've got the game preparation side of things, but then it's just the mental health side of things, keeping the players not from falling into any of that dark side stuff.
Yeah. No, there's definitely two parts to it, and I think for me, our club psych I probably don't use as much for outside of footy life, because I've been through it and I know how to deal with it now, so I don't need to see him for that. But certainly the performance side of things, I still touch base with him. I've had a number of people along the journey that I've used and been able to grab little bits and pieces from in the mental side. And when I was at Fremantle, I had a midfield coach, Brett Kirk, who taught me a lot about meditation and mental imagery, and how much that can influence your performance and even just your day-to-day life. So every morning I'll meditate for 5-10 minutes, just sets my day up. I love it. It's not for everyone, I know that, but for me it works. And then the mental imagery side of it, before every main session I'll do that. So for me, my mental imagery is put myself in different scenarios that I'm going to face during a game or at training, whether it be ground ball technique, my stoppage setups, my comms, all that. So I mentally go through these scenarios. And when I first started it, I used to have a script. So the psych, she at Freo would talk into a memo, into a phone, and draw up these situations, and I'd listen to them with my eyes closed, and then you put yourself in that situation, you're hearing what's going on. So I do about 10-15 minutes of that a couple of times a week, but now I can just put myself in there without having the script. But it's been a massive part of getting better, my development as a player. I think I wouldn't be the player I am without using those tools that were given to me early on by Kirky, and then the psych at Freo, and I've continued to use it my whole career, and it's been so beneficial for me.
That's amazing to hear, because that's that whole visualisation and the importance of that visualisation, and like you said, putting yourself in those scenarios and understanding. So is that pretty typically the mental preparation that you have before a game?
Yeah, so I'll do 2 during the week, and then I'll do it the night before a game as well. So just putting myself in different situations. So for me, it might be, I know some weeks I might get tagged, so another opposition following me around. What sort of tools do I have to break that and get some space around stoppages, my work rate, things like that. I picture myself doing all those things the night before, and it's almost like another training session in a way, without having to go out there and run and use your body, and you're saving your legs. So I think it's an underrated tool that athletes, particularly in the AFL, probably don't use as much as what they could.
Yeah.
And once again, it's similar to meditation. I get that it's not going to work for some people. They're not going to enjoy it and might not get much out of it, but I try and encourage our players to give it a go, and hopefully it works for them. If not, at least they've had a crack.
Yeah, mate, 100%. I'm a meditator as well, so I can completely agree and understand. Now, it's that saying that you learn more from a loss than you do a win. Now, that going back last year to that 2023 grand final loss, you just lost by 4 points. How do you, as a team and as a person, grow and learn from that experience and put that into a positive this season?
Yeah, well, we reviewed it straight after, and it probably, I don't know if I'll ever fully get over the loss, because we were so close, and you look back and look at little moments that you could have done better. But it's funny how powerful the mind. If you stay in that space, and we probably did as a team. Maybe that's why we had a poor start of the year. It's hard to know what every player was going through, but maybe that was a part of it. We were sort of still thinking far out, what if, but if you stay in the past, you're not going to be able to move forward. So the club was really good at reviewing it, still being really proud of the achievement. We were probably a part of one of the best grand finals of all time. It was an amazing game.
Exactly.
So I'll look back now and try and turn it into a positive and say, like, how good that we were a part of that game. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way, but you'd rather be there and giving yourself a shot at it than being on holidays in September and watching from afar. So it's been it's an amazing experience that whole week, being in Melbourne for the grand final parade, where there's hundreds of thousands of people, mainly Collingwood supporters, booing me, but it was still a great experience to go through that whole week, and seeing our supporter base at training, and even afterwards how proud they were of us, and just trying to take those positive things from it rather than focusing on the result. That's what I'm trying to do now. But as a team, we sort of learnt that, geez, we're this close, so let's buckle up and go again. And you'd rather, as I said, be in those games and be watching at home. So we want to try and get back there and give ourselves another shot.
Yeah, well, they say that you've got to lose a grand final to win one, and you blokes have lost one, so maybe that's a positive sign.
Hopefully, that's a positive omen. But yeah, it's such an even comp. Like,
it is.
We feel like our best is good enough, so we've just got to keep bringing it for the back half of this year, and hopefully we can get another crack at it.
Yeah, well, definitely. If you look at in the last 10 games, you guys are the form team in the comp, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. It might be, I don't know the exact numbers, maybe it's 10, maybe 9, but we're 7 wins, 1 draw and a loss, or 8, 1-1, I don't actually know. But yeah, we feel like we're starting to get our mojo back. And yeah, I think I feel like as well at the start of the season, and we sort of touched on it before with the outside noise and the media and stuff, but a lot of expectation on us I think most professionals said that we were the favourites for the premiership, and maybe that weighs us down a little bit. You're sort of like going out there thinking, oh, far out, we've got to win this week, and you're thinking about the result rather than the process.
100%.
And so after the bad start, it might have been the best thing for us to start like that, and we just strip everything back and focus on what we can do in that moment and the process of winning games rather than the result. You sort of we have to win this one or we have to win the next two to get back in the hunt. We just stripped it right back and just said, righto, what do we got to do in this moment to be a better football side during the game? So we were trying to forget about the scoreboard, forget about all of that and just focus on process. What do I have to do in this moment? I've messed up this kick.
Yep.
All right, what's next? We're not thinking, oh no, I've messed up this kick, they've kicked the goal and like now we're 4 goals down and we're probably going to lose. We just sort of stripped it right back to what do we have to do as a team in that moment, and probably going back to enjoying our footy. Just pretend you're playing with you are playing with your mates, but pretend you're playing country footy or back to your childhood where you're just playing for the love of the game. We're probably just a little bit caught up in the seriousness of it all, which obviously it is a wins and loss industry, but all of our players grew up loving the game, so just get back to that.
Yeah, because obviously that's the pressure, isn't it? So how do you personally handle that pressure? Do you actually remember a moment in your career where you felt under the most pressure and what you did?
Probably the moment in my career I felt under the most pressure wasn't actually when I was playing. It was during COVID when a report came out that I was thinking about heading back to Fremantle at the end of 2021, so a few years ago now. My family and my wife's family were interstate. We'd been through COVID. We couldn't travel anywhere, and we'd just discussed what's the best thing for our family. We'd just had Piper, our little girl, and sort of we couldn't travel to Perth, and they couldn't come to us for like a couple of years, really. So
it's tough.
We were basically just having discussions on whether we needed any support. Did we need to look at trying to go back to Perth and play? It didn't really progress too far, but it came out in the media, and Jules was copping heaps on social media. I was, but I've dealt with that through games. Like after games, some fan bases will come at you. So I'd sort of dealt with it, but Jules was getting attacked personally, saying some pretty vile things, and I'll never apologise for considering what's best for my family. But that was probably the one where I felt under the most pressure. And in the end, we just had to speed the process up, and the best thing for us was to stay in Brisbane, and we came to that conclusion. We just had to do it in 2 days rather than maybe 2 or 3 weeks, which we thought we might have post that 2021 season. But in the end, we wanted to stay, and we stayed. But the pressure from the media and even people attacking my personality, which you can attack my game and what I do on the field, but some of these people didn't know me as a person. So that was probably the biggest pressure moment that I've been through in the media. But it was more seeing what my family, even my mum and dad, were getting riled up with what people were saying, and my mates and Jules in particular. So that was probably the hardest part. But yeah, it was a strange period of my life, because in the end we stayed and nothing came of it. So there was a lot of words getting thrown, especially at Jules, that it was pretty disgusting, really.
Yeah, mate, thanks for sharing that. I can actually relate. I've gone through some stuff in my career, and it's like, chuck rocks at me, that's fine. But as soon as people start to chuck rocks at your family, it's just going like, mate, you cross the line.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it was a challenging period, but
tough time. Yeah,
it was good for us in the end. I think Jules as well, she was sort of like far out, didn't realise this is what some people have to go through, and she's gotten stronger from it as well.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I would have thought that as a professional footy player, the pressure that you've got on the paddock to perform, and yet obviously you could go through some stuff where you're not in as much control out of it off the field, and then that can obviously have more impact on you. And I think having that ability, it's something I still struggle with, is you've done that bad kick and putting that behind you. And I think the ones that do that the best are the golfers. They've just sprayed one out, and they've got this ability to just completely forget about that shot and just focus on the next one. And the ability to be able to do that, and how you can, has such a massive impact in your own performance, removing that doubt and that negativity.
Yeah, well, I think for me, I had to do that early on. I know from my first probably even 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, if I had a bad game and we lost, so it's sort of like a double. If you have a bad game and you win, you're sort of like, when you're younger, you're probably worried about your spot. So you think, oh, geez, I hope I keep my spot. But we won, so I'm probably more chance to keep my spot. If you have a bad game and you lose, it took me like 3 or 4 or 5 days to sort of get over it.
Yeah.
So I came up with a technique. I reckon it was probably 4 or 5 years in, so it still took me a while to figure it out. But now if I have a bad game and we lose, now if I have a bad game and we win, I don't care, and it's easy for me because I know that I'm going to play the next week. So I know that I'm going to be able to go out and try and rectify my own performance. But for me, it's as long as we win, I'm happy. But if we lose and I play bad, or even if I play well, I have this thing, and even if I play well and we win, the next day I jump in the pool at home and just go, right, as soon as I hit that water, I'm washing away the last result, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever's happened in the previous performance. Wash it away when you're in the water and you get out and you're focused on what you can do for the next week, and you don't go back in your head and think about, geez, I played bad on the weekend, or that was a bad loss. Wash that away, and I think that brings positive energy for me into the club the next day. So yeah, that's sort of a technique that I use now. Once I hit that water in my pool, I've washed away the last result.
How good. I love it.
Yeah.
What is going through your mind as you're running out onto the field in front of a packed house at the Gabba?
Yeah, I love it. Excitement, energy. I try and lap it up. 31 now, so I know I'm certainly in the back half of my career. So I'm just trying to enjoy those moments as well and soak it all in. It's an amazing feeling running out onto any field, any AFL field. But once again, on the mental side of things and gratitude, I always lay in the middle of the oval, whatever venue we're at, probably about 2 hours before the game starts, so no one's in the crowd yet. I'll do a little bit of a warm-up stretch and then lay down and do a little bit of meditation just for a couple of minutes. But then after I've done that, I just do a bit of a gratitude piece where I think to myself, how lucky am I to be able to live out my dream? I'm about to play a game of AFL football in front of however many people are at that stadium. The last couple of years, fortunate enough to be captain. I'm about to captain an AFL team. How good's this? So just have that gratitude piece, and that sets me up to be in a really good mindset to attack the game. And I've been doing that for a long time now, and I feel like that holds me in great stead. Just being thankful and having a lot of gratitude for what I'm about to do, which is play a game of AFL, which I've dreamed of doing for 18 years in my life. So it's an important part of my process in the lead up to a game.
That is awesome. I've not come across that before, but I reckon that is a great way to look at it, being able to have that little bit of quiet time in the middle on your own, and you're obviously still practicing that visualisation and understanding how it's all going to roll.
Yeah.
Mate, now I want to touch on belief. Now, I know in professional sport, that's everything. Obviously, belief in yourself, belief in your teammates. Do you remember a time back when you were younger having someone that really believed in you, whether that was a coach, and the impact that's had on your career?
Yeah, well, it's obviously my family. We touched on it before, but
Yep.
Tim as well. He was probably the one. Tim Lawrence, my manager. He was massive in making me believe in myself and that I could get drafted and make it.
So what year was that? When did you first engage him as your manager?
2011, so my start of my draft year.
Okay.
But before that, I wouldn't have been on any club's radar leading into my draft year, but I always felt like I had the capabilities of playing AFL and the skill set. I just needed to put together a good year. And he was massive on controlling the things that you could control, focusing on that and just really dialing in on what you can do, because you can't control what other people think of you or your game or whatever, but
exactly
whatever you can do to better yourself as a player and a person, focus in on that and hone in on that. And he was massive for me in that year, and basically telling me, I believe that you can make it. So if I do, I know there'll be other people that do as well. You've just got to put things in place to be able to deliver, and that's all you can do. So he was awesome in that space for that whole year, and that was probably the year I started playing under 18s. Got picked for the under-18 state team. I was like a late addition. Ended up playing all of those 5 games, and then I was like, right, I'm starting to roll here. played a couple of games of reserves in the sample and then got picked for the league team, which is basically like the league below NRL. So whatever that is here in Queensland, I'm not sure. But
VFL, is it?
Well, it's a VFL in the AFL world,
Yep.
yeah. But SANFL's the South Australian comp.
Right.
So I was playing, I played like the last 8 games there, and I was sort of able to step up to each level, and that gave me confidence that, whatever level I'm thrown into, I can deliver.
Yep.
But Tim was massive in that, he was unbelievable.
What about now? Who's in your inner circle that really you have got that that structure and that belief in you right now?
Same people.
Same?
Hasn't changed. And I've got a couple of really close mates who from South Australia that text me before every game, and sort of I've brought them along for the ride and the journey as well ever since I started. So it hasn't changed in 13 years really.
Oh, mate, how good.
So I've been blessed with the people around me.
And they keep you grounded as well, those mates?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so.
What about nutrition, right? So how big is that for your life personally, and what does the club do? Have they got a dietitian, and do they help your players look after their nutrition? Yeah,
we've got a dietitian, so it's sort of up to the individual to use them. But if there's guys that need to lose weight, gain weight, they'll do a fair bit of work, and the younger guys obviously do a fair bit of work with her. The older guys, you're sort of left to your own devices unless you can go and see her and get a meal plan or whatever you want. She'll help you out whenever you need it. But the guys that have been around a while sort of know what works for them. It's obviously a massive part, refueling, post, pre, every session, every game. So it's a big part and something that you have to learn along the way, and that's why we have the dietitian to help guide those young guys into what they need to put into their body. But for me, I keep it pretty simple. I'm just trying to hold body weight really the last few years.
Yep.
So for me, it's just veggies are obviously massive. So eat a lot of veggies, and then red meat, white meat. I'm a pretty basic guy. I sort of keep it pretty simple. Jules is a fantastic cook, so she does 95% of the cooking in our house.
What about hydration? Is that something that's spoken about as well? And do you keep up your own hydration, particularly like during the week leading up to a game? Do you do anything particular about that? Because you guys would sweat a fair bit, obviously, and lose a lot of fluid during the game. Yeah,
we have to be very well hydrated. Even for our sessions, we still do sort of 4 or 5 Ks each session through the week. So they're still solid sessions leading into a game. But I use a lot of electrolytes to keep me hydrated. Always try and carry water with me. Just keep sipping. That once again, Tim was massive on that in my draft year. Just try and carry a water bottle around with you everywhere.
Great advice.
Yeah, which you don't really think about when you're a kid. You just once you're thirsty, I'll go find some water. But if you actually have a bottle there, you find yourself just sipping on it anyway, and keep hydrated throughout the day. So try and always carry some water with me.
Yeah. I hear now that you can get the water bottles that are connected to your phone, and then you're getting reminders on your smartwatch to be able to see, and then you can monitor exactly how much fluid you have. If iPhone have got these little water bottles.
There you go.
Amazing,
I didn't know about that. So.
What about supplements? Are you a big person in belief? You take any supplements to try and make any adjustments to your nutrition levels that you may not be getting through food source?
I'm not. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of guys use a lot of supplements. When I first started, I think I came into the system in my first year at 71 or 72 kilos.
Yep. And
then I used protein to put on muscle, protein powder post-gym. And by the end of my first pre-season, or maybe halfway through my first season, I was 78 kilos. So I put on 6 or 7 kilos.
Wow.
And I found from there, I weigh about 86 at the moment. I'll probably want to sit at about 84. So next pre-season, I'll try and just lose a couple. I feel like I run my best at about 84. So I had to put on a little bit of weight. I had a couple of dodgy shoulders, so that I had to put a bit of muscle on through my back last off-season. So that's why I'm actually a little bit heavier than what I would want to be. But I still feel like I'm moving well and all that. But I'm pretty particular with where I want to be with my weight. But after my first year, I found if I took protein or too many supplements, I put on too much muscle, So I don't take anything.
That sounds like a problem most blokes would like
Yeah,
to have.
yeah, I know. But yeah, I'll put on too much weight, and it's generally all muscle if I take supplements. So, yeah, I try not to take anything. Even I just try and do it with my food diet, to be honest. If I'm feeling a bit sore, I'll try and eat more fish and whatnot. And yeah, I try and do it through my food rather than taking anything, which is probably a little bit different to a lot of players and people in everyday life. Take different supplements, but I'm one that sort of steers clear of them.
Tries to get it natural.
Yeah.
So Chris Fagan, he's been the head coach of the Lions now, I think, since 2017.
Yeah, I think that'd be right.
What sort of influence do you think he's had on the playing group and on the club since he's been there, and how would you describe his leadership style?
Yeah, he's very caring. Everyone calls him Dad around the club.
Oh.
It's pretty funny. He's a very caring person, and I think when he took over as coach, the club was sort of on its knees a little bit, and
it was
that we talk about that belief piece. They just didn't believe that they were ever going to be any good. So he came in and really galvanised the group and set benchmarks for improvement, not by wins and losses. So I think early on I wasn't there, but the club still speak about it. They would go on things like quarters won. So righto, this week we want to try and win 2 quarters out of the 4. So we'll probably lose the game, but we want to win 2 quarters. And then once they tick a few of those off, they go, righto, let's try and win 3 quarters now. And measured themselves on that rather than wins and losses. And he just came in and spoke about growth mindset. A lot of guys probably had the belief that they were pigeonholed into this is me as a player, and he came in and just sort of gave the whole group belief that they could be a lot better than what they were. And I think even the staff, he kept the same coaching staff and the same footy department staff. Whereas some coaches they can come in and you can basically pick who you want as your assistant coaches. But he said, "No, I'm going to give everyone here a go. I believe in all of you," and basically gave the whole club, players and staff, belief that they could be a lot better than what they were, and measured it differently than the ladder. And then they started to see, oh yeah, we can do this. And they, after a couple of years. I think they only won 5 games his first 2 years, but you could see even from I was playing at another club, I was like, these guys, they're going to be a good team. And they started to believe in that. And I think in his second year, they had 8 losses by under 10 points or something, and you could see they weren't far away. So he came in and just gave the whole club a breath of fresh air and believed in him when maybe others hadn't. So I think that was the big thing for him, just bringing the club together and giving them that belief.
Do you find he's had a big influence in your career personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I started with Ross, who was great for me and built resilience, and he also gave me belief in me. But when I came to Brizzy, Fags he's just such a positive guy that he was just like, I just want you to go out there and do your thing. This is why we got you, because of your strengths. Didn't focus much on your weaknesses. You still work on them, and he encourages you to work on things that you're not great at, but he believes in your weapons, and this is why you're an AFL footballer, so bring that. So that's been the biggest thing from him, and all our coaches really, they just give me belief that I can be a great player in the competition and go out there and do your thing. So instead of worrying too much about what I need to improve on, it's a lot about what I'm good at and what weapons I can bring to the team.
Yeah. What about culture? By the sound of it, he's had a massive influence, the overarching culture of the entire club. Is it very different from what you've had in the past, like down at Fremantle? How would you describe the culture at the Lions?
I think at the Lions we have a really good balance of working hard and encouraging each other to get better, and also having fun at the same time. So we come into the club and we've got some bubbly personalities that light the place up. So we have a really good balance of that. And I think I'd touched on it before, but just that growth mindset. So we're always trying to get better every session, every week, every game, every season. So you want to try and better yourself. And I think the culture that we've created, maybe in the past, blokes were sort of laughed at or whatever for doing too much extras and trying to get better, whereas now it's fully encouraged, and we love seeing guys trying to get better as good as they can. So, I think we've put an emphasis on the growth mindset, and you can be better than what you are, and everyone's sort of adapted to that and taken it on board. And we just have such a driven playing group as well that want to get better each and every day.
I think you can see it. I think you can see it, particularly now in the season. Like you said, I think you might have had a little bit of a few hiccups there in the start, but I think you can really see the positivity in the team now, mate, which is absolutely fantastic. What about routine? Do you guys have a team routine on game day, or is that all individual?
No, that's all individual. So, guys are left to their own devices and can do what they please on game day, and it probably takes a little while again to figure out what works best for you. But yeah, guys, we'll have like captains run the day before, which is just a little session, and then we don't see each other until the game. But some guys will go and hang out. Even I know that I think Cam Rayner and Huey McCluggage go and shoot hoops the morning of a game, just to loosen up a little bit. Other guys will chill out, go for a walk, grab some brekkie, whatever it is. Guys just do their own thing. Yeah.
What's the coaching staff, the entire coaching staff, look like at the club?
Yeah, there's probably too many to name. There's a lot, but we obviously have Fags, and then maybe 4 or 5 assistants, and then we have a few development coaches as well who spend the majority of their time focusing on the sort of 1st to 4 year group.
Because it's a big squad. You were saying there's 40 odd something.
Yeah. So we probably I don't actually know, but probably 10, 11 coaches. So that's 1 to every 4 really.
Wow.
And then, I reckon, I'm trying to count off the top of my head, maybe 9. But yeah, we have a lot of resources there, so it's great. And then S&C staff as well. So our strength and conditioning team, we maybe have 4 or 5 of them as well. So yeah, you've got a lot of support to get better.
Are you nominated in? So do you have your particular strength and conditioning coach, or is that something that you can just choose to go and see any one of those 4 guys?
Yeah, you can choose and go and see any one of them, but typically there's a couple with the main squad, and then a guy that looks after the rehab guys, and then you have a couple of sort of up and coming younger S&C guys floating around as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but it's good. You probably just choose who you want to speak to that day. You're not sort of assigned to one person. Yeah.
What about technology? Is that something that's utilised where they're doing all the measuring and monitoring of heart rates and distances run during a game? Is that big?
Yeah, we don't have heart rate monitors. That was big at Freo when I first got there. We used to wear the strap every session. But now we have GPS every session as well. So they monitor your loads, and it's sort of up to the individual to let the S&C guys know how you're feeling. So we fill out like a little form every morning on just how your well-being, basically, how you slept, things like that. So, and going from that, any like maybe niggles that you have, and then your GPS, what you've done over the last couple of weeks, then they sort of tailor your program to that. So it's used a fair bit.
So how many Ks do you run in a training session versus a game?
Yeah, I think our first one we'll probably do 3 to 4 Ks, and then maybe 4 to 6 in the main session, but that's at higher intensity. So the first session's lower intensity. These are the 2 main sessions. And then in a game, anywhere from 12 to 16 Ks. It sort of depends on how the game unfolds and what's happening, but that's generally the distances. And then on a Monday, we'll just do a recovery run, which is just like a couple of K jog, really low intensity.
Would that vary? Because as a midfielder, you'd be putting out a few more Ks than the boys, the defensemen, and is that right?
The defenders run a fair bit actually, a lot, because a lot of our stuff can be in tight. So sometimes our distances are lower, but if it's a free-flowing game, ours is probably higher. So it varies on how the game plays out. But it's pretty even really across all lines now. Most guys would be between 12 and 16, I reckon.
What about a typical training week? What's that look like for you? You mentioned a couple like you had those runs, but do you have a bit of a set routine every week for you doing your strength work and then the days that you're together as a team training?
Yeah, it sort of depends on when you play. So if we play on a Sunday like this week and then we play Saturday next week, you have a shorter turnaround, so it's 6 days. So we'll only have one main session. So it changes a heap, but generally you try and get, if it's a normal 7-day break, you have a light session or 2 light sessions, 2 main sessions and game. That's on field, and then off the field you'll have a day of upper body, day of lower body, and then the 3rd day of weights you'll do a mix. Some guys change it up. Some guys prefer to do, like if we play Saturday, they'll do upper body Monday, lower body Tuesday, lower body Thursday, and maybe a bit of a pump on Friday.
Yeah.
And then like upper body pump on Friday and then play. Some guys like to just smash it all out on the Thursday. So, it varies a little bit between each individual.
What about recovery? Is that something that the club's big on, or you're obviously personal, like ice baths, all those sort of things? Are you guys into any of that?
Yeah, so we when I started, it used to be very structured, and the S&C guys would sort of watch your recovery, make sure you're doing it. Now it's sort of choose your own adventure a little bit, because some things work for some guys, but
exactly,
like I said before, our group's pretty driven, so we you always see guys doing their own recovery through the week, and it's a massive part of it. So we've got ice bars and spas, hot spas at the club, the Normatec, the leg compression stuff. A lot of guys sit on them for half hour, 45 minutes. We've got like the saunas and stuff at just across the road at the club that we can go and use whenever you want.
Yep.
Even just pool recovery, so going for a gentle swim and doing some movement in the pools. I love that stuff, so I'm doing that a fair bit through the week. But every guy's different. They sort of choose what they want to do.
Right.
But I think mobility is a big one, especially for me as I'm getting older, just making sure that I'm doing stretching and limbering up before and post-training.
That cracks me up. My son's your age, and that's what he says to me, Dad. He goes, I'm not 17 anymore. I thought, mate, wait till you get to my age.
Yeah, I know, it's funny. In terms of our sporting life, though, that's sort of where you're at. But, I get that all the time, and I say that to Dad and stuff too. He's like, mate, wait till you're my age.
Speaking about funny, I've got a couple of mates who are comedians. They reckon that we need a laugh more. So what do you reckon the funniest thing is that you've seen on a footy field?
Funniest thing I've seen? We get guys at training a lot. I actually, the other day, having shots for goal, it's nothing funny really happens during a game. You're not really in a jovial mood, but at training, kicked the ball, called out heads, but donked one of our assistant coaches on the head. So that's always funny. It's not funny for them, but all the other boys get a good laugh out of that. Or maybe I've seen when I was at Freo, there's a photo that came out. We played Geelong in Geelong, and Nathan Fyfe got tackled and sort of got dacked, so his ass was hanging out. That was pretty funny. But yeah, there's sort of not too many funny moments during a game, which is unfortunate.
Fair enough. So what about outside of AFL, Lachie? Where do we find you on a day off, mate, apart from being in a podcast studio?
Yeah, well, love my golf, so I try and get out if the body allows. Playing some golf. I'm studying my master's in business at the moment, so I'm enjoying that with my family, so I don't get too much sort of spare time to spend with Jules and Piper, but they're both usually at home on a Wednesday, which is usually our day off, so try and spend as much time with them as I can. I love reading as well, so you can find me reading a book at home too, but I'm a bit of a homebody. I don't, unless I'm playing golf or I'm out at a park or something with the family, I like to spend a bit of time at home.
It's a little happy place.
Yeah, just hide away.
What do you reckon you do differently? So I think in professional sport, it's all about that little edge. Can you think of anything that you reckon you might do differently from some of your other competitors that just gives you a bit of an edge?
Yeah, probably that mental side. I spend a lot of time on the mental part of my game, which maybe a lot of AFL players don't. So I feel like that piece, which sort of hand in hand with the gratitude piece and trying to enjoy what I'm doing every day and not get caught up in the seriousness of it all. So that's probably something that's a little bit different as well. And being in Brizzy, it's probably a little bit easier because we don't have as much media scrutiny as what maybe the clubs in Melbourne do. So it's maybe a bit easier to enjoy our footy here rather than getting hounded by the media and results. It's sort of 24/7 news cycle is footy in Victoria. So even South Australia and WA cop that a fair bit, whereas here the people and the media are a lot more laid back, which is nice.
Yeah. It's interesting with the pressure. I remember Chris Lim saying that it's just a game of cricket, you know. So at the end of the day, just getting back to those basics to take that level of pressure off you, I think is awesome advice. What about the average punter out there? Like, you're obviously a professional athlete, health and fitness is everything for you. What would you say just to the average punter? What should they be doing just to get a little bit more health and fitness?
Yeah, well, I find if I said that I like being a homebody, but if I don't get out and about, you go stir crazy. And for people that might work in offices and things like that, just even if it's just a walk with the missus or your dog or something at the end of the day, just to get that fresh air, I think is really important.
Get outside, get active.
100%. Yeah, if you're cooped up inside all day, like I find if I'm inside, it's rainy or something, I spend the whole day inside. I go a bit stir crazy. So if you do that 4 or 5 days in a row, I think for your mental health, it's so important to get out and about. And we're lucky that we live in Queensland where the weather's magic 95% of the time. So just getting outdoors. You don't have to be a runner or go and do those things, but just getting out and about, even if it's walking to your coffee shop instead of driving or something. But
just move.
Just get out. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What about legacy? Is that something now you're getting towards the tail end of your career? Is that something that you think about? Is there anything else apart from winning a flag, I'd imagine, that you want to achieve in your career? Yeah,
well, it's premierships number one. It's the thing that's missing for me. But yeah, I think just the way I carry myself from here on out as well, and got a young family, another little one on the way. So I want them to, when they grow up, look back and be proud of who I was as a person, first and foremost, but as a player as well. It'd be pretty cool if they look back and can be really proud of what I achieved on the field. So that's sort of my motivation, other than winning a premiership, which I haven't been able to do yet, is that family piece.
Yeah. So you're 31 now, aren't you?
31, yeah.
Where do you see yourself when you're 40? Could you look that far ahead?
A little bit, yeah. I see myself still involved with the game. I love footy. So whether that's assistant coach, in the media, I like the sort of back office, the front office stuff. So like list management and general manager side of things. That's sort of, as I get older, start to look at that and find that interesting, how they keep the footy club together and all the moving parts that come with it. When you're young, you don't think about any of that stuff. You're just there to play footy. But as I get older and being in leadership groups and things like that, you see all the different personalities and people that are involved in a footy club instead of just the players. So
it's
I've
a
enjoyed.
Big machine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive.
I didn't realise that number of assistant coaches and obviously strength and conditioning coaches. Like, it's a massive machine, a footy club.
Yeah, well, then you've got upstairs your membership department, your sponsorship, marketing, all of that. I don't actually know the number, but we'd have obviously over 100, 150 employees. So
on the books,
yeah, it's a big setup, and that sort of front office stuff I'm starting to dip my toes into and enjoy sort of looking at that as well. So I think you'll find me at a footy club still. I love sport in general, so there is a small part of me that has an interest in delving into another sport, whether it's like basketball and just getting to know how they operate. And but I love sport, so I think you'll find me in sport somewhere.
You're living and breathing that growth mindset, mate. I love it, that continuous improvement. Now, before we get in the quick fire question, what's the dumbest thing that you've ever done?
Dumbest thing I've ever done on the footy field or just in general?
In general, baby.
In general. There would be a lot when I was younger. Dumbest thing I've ever done? That's a hard question. Too many to pick from. But no, I've told this story a couple of times, so it's not news to everyone. But during that, we spoke about Ross giving me a spray after my first season and my first off season. But one time I was probably a little bit hungover and I didn't want to do my run, but we used to get tracked on the Strava on your phone app. You had to send it into the club. They've got rid of that now, but I couldn't be bothered doing it, so I jumped on the motorbike and did my run with the thing attached to my arm on the motorbike up and down. So
I love it.
That was pretty dumb.
So you picked up on that, just judged off your heart rate, or you're going too fast?
Nah, well, I knew that it would. I did it at a pace that I ran, but so like halfway through, it was like a 40-minute session, and like 20 minutes in, I'm like, why didn't I just run this? Because it still took just as long, just sitting on the motorbike pottering along. So that was pretty stupid.
That is funny, mate. All right, quick fire question time. You ready?
Let's do it.
If you get stuck, mate, just sing out pass, and we'll spray through these. So,
All right.
Aside from AFL, what sports do you follow?
NBA, and the last couple of years, NFL I've gotten into. I love the NFL now as well.
Yeah, great sport. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Get woken up by my little girl, so I spend 20 minutes with her.
Oh, that's awesome. Most used app on your phone?
What would it be? Probably AFL app, just checking what's going on.
AFL idol you used to look up to as a kid?
Gavin Wanganeen.
What really pisses you off?
We'll come back to that one.
Opponent you least look forward to marking in a game?
I don't really have one. I like challenges, so when the best players come to me, I love it.
Bring it on. What's one thing you can't live without?
Piper now, and my wife, throw Jules in.
Who's the toughest player that you've ever competed against?
Probably when I was younger, it was Patrick Dangerfield. He was a beast. He's so powerful, so it would have been him when I was younger.
Yep. The best player you've ever played with? That'd be a tough one.
Yeah, I've been lucky to play with a few. Matthew Pavlich, Nat Fife, Dane Zorko. He's a gun. When I first got here, he was unbelievable. So they're just a few.
What's the most points you've scored in a game?
I've kicked 4 goals in an AFL game, which would be my most.
Oh, awesome. What gets you up at 4 a.m?
My daughter. She's pretty good, though. She sleeps very well. It's very rare she wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Your dream car?
I'm not a massive car person, but I've got a Merc and always wanted one, so I'm happy with that.
What about a hidden talent no one knows about?
Hidden talent? No, I don't really have one. I don't really have a hidden talent. I'd love to have one though. Like I'm not good at, I don't have a magic trick or anything like that. I'm not a good joke teller.
Yep.
Pretty boring.
Who's the smartest person that you've ever met?
That's a good question. There's been some really smart guys. Matt DeBoer is probably one who I played with at Freo. He's a very clever guy.
Who's the team clown at the Lions?
Kyle Lohman. Grug, we call him.
What is that?
You know that cartoon, that Grug?
Oh.
Yeah, he looks like him.
What's your greatest strength?
Greatest strength? Probably my commitment and dedication to my craft.
Do you have a favourite saying?
Nah, I don't really have a favourite saying. Oh, the one that Tim taught me, control what you can control. I like that.
Yeah, control the controllables.
Yeah.
Yep. The best advice that you've ever received?
Same.
All right, mate, last question. Finish this sentence, I believe.
I believe it's a little bit cliche, but if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. That's what I believe.
Mate, well said. That's exactly what I said, so
there you go.
Totally believe that, mate. Thank you so much. And how busy
no
I really
worries.
appreciate your time, mate. You're an absolute superstar.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Now, if you've enjoyed this episode, we have a small favour to ask. Please take a moment to subscribe, review, and share this podcast with someone you think will appreciate it. Your support helps us reach more listeners, and we can continue delivering content that educate, inspires, and empowers you. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay in the loop with all our latest news. 2024 is going to be a huge year, and we'll continue running our weekly Friday morning kayaking sessions on the beautiful Brisbane River, along with plenty more thrilling adventures, exciting activities, and challenges are planned. We'd love for you to join us and be part of our growing community. Remember, success is all about consistency. And by investing 26 minutes exercising both your mind and your body every day, you too can become the strongest, fittest, and healthiest version of you. So stay tuned and stay active.